You're
I'm ready to
on.
go. Here we are. I'm in the game. I'm in the house.
Hello. I've got to be honest with you, and I know that I do this fangirl thing with you quite a lot, but this is like my most excited that I'm going to be every 2 days.
Come on, let's do it. Come on.
I'm absolutely knackered. I'm so excited for this. So, thank you so much, everyone, for coming and joining What's Your Story. Everything that we're about as well, Mental Health Day, is about sharing stories from people that we think are brilliant and we've got incredible stories to share about their mental health journeys. Because I believe mental health should be for many of us like the baseline for what we should want, and actually we can go beyond that. And I think there's a chance if we understand what they do, being inspired by them, but also how they manage their mental health on a day-to-day basis. I think that we can get real potential, and no one, in my mind, embodies better than the man sat in front of us, Mort,
Thank you so much.
Who I've been following, not literally, which would be weird and slightly stalky, for over a year or so now, and I just love the work that he does, and I wanted him to come on today to share his story, and how I know that it will impact others and what they can.
Come on, I'm ready. What I do have a problem with though is the sound. I don't know what I'm doing with the sound.
Okay, so can you mute your computer and then sound up on your phone? So mute. So have you got a Mac? You have. Okay, so it's the not the mute on the microphone. If you go to the keyboard, it's the one that's the sound off button on the keyboard. Just sound off.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, and then sound off.
Then I've got the sound from this going into the computer.
Sound from where?
So the sound from my phone is going to go into my computer now, but yeah. Does that make sense?
There's no echo. It's perfect.
Oh, amazing. Well, good to go.
Right. Perfect. So, I think, as you've already seen, Paul is a straight-talking, high-performing leader.
Wow, well, thank you. I've been called many things before.
Straight-talking, high-performing leader, formerly suicidal, overwhelmed, and diagnosed with bipolar. His books, courses, videos, and content has reached the lives of millions of people, of which I certainly count myself as one. Paul spends his time coaching, #1 coach in the UK, may I add?
That is correct. That is a fact.
Helping others to reclaim their power, take control, find clarity, direction, and inner peace. I mean, what more could I be said? And listen, I want to kick off by asking, what's your story, Paul? Can you tell us what lay behind that? I know a bit about the journey you've been on.
My story is a very roller coaster of emotions and results and fuck ups, essentially, right? So I'm of the opinion that where we are now is just a result of a series of decisions that we made and a series of challenges that we've had and how we reacted to those challenges. So my challenge was, obviously I'm doing this today because of my challenge, which I'm actually genuinely grateful for all the shit that I had to go through to get here. And it was essentially a blessing because there's not many people who do what I do in the way that I do it.
No, right.
Which is a blessing for me, and without sounding big-headed, which actually, fuck it, if I sound big-headed, that's someone's opinion. There wouldn't have been the amounts of families that have been affected by what I do as they have.
Absolutely.
Now, unless I went through that. So here's the truth of it. In 2014, I was suicidal, despite having a great life on the outside. So I was living in Marbella. I had a successful business. I had a 4-bedroom villa with a private pool. My daughter had just been born in Marbella. I had a 2-year-old son. I was married, hot wife, amazing wife, and the car that I wanted. Yet inside I was empty, if you like. Sadly lacking in any kind of purpose. And that the only escape that I had was boozing and sniffing coke. That was it. That was essentially... I'm not going so far as to say as I was an addict, but even as far as 2015, I moved back home from Marbella after being diagnosed bipolar there, and sorry, my low battery thing came on. Give me a sec.
Right.
There we go. So and I was diagnosed bipolar, and I was almost sent home from Marbella because it wasn't a thing there. And I saw somebody ask before on the stream that, do I think I'm bipolar? No. I was given a diagnosis of bipolar. I am not bipolar. I don't have bipolar. I was given medication that I was, after a lot of work, able to, in fact, and a lot of blood tests, remove myself from. So that was my story, and it's been a long journey since. I mean, because I'd built a successful business, I was able to invest and travel all over the world and work with some of the best coaches in the world. I worked with a program called Wake Up Warrior back in 2014, 2015. Then I ended up spending 9 days at Byron Katie's School for the Work. I've worked with the Debbie Ford Institute. I've worked with almost any coach you could name, Dr. John DeMartini, a bunch of people that you could name. And I've kind of scrambled and tried and tested my way to something that works for me and the hundreds of people that I work with.
Yeah, and
that's the whole story. And it hasn't been just ups. There's been a lot of. It's been. Listen, everyone says this, but it has been a little bit of a roller coaster for me. And obviously, I fell off the wagon before. I fucked up before. I've made mistakes. I fell out with people. I've done stuff and then stopped doing it. And then it's been a long old journey. I mean, being suicidal and being that low is no joke. I mean, like I say, from the outside, I had the perfect life. I had a very successful supplement company, a very successful marketing company. But the reality is none of that really mattered. And the same money doesn't make you happy, but that's not what that was about. Because I've still got money now.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, there's so much that I want to talk to you about. I literally wish that we could spend the day chatting. Some people might not like that so much, but who knows? I think that, look, first and foremost, I really want to go into that place where you're saying about the kind of purpose piece, right? And, and I've heard you say this before about how, mental illness is not discriminate, right? It can attack anyone, and you said this, people don't get it. You were really, really successful. You had the perfect life. Why did it happen? And do you think then, my question to you is, you talked there about the purpose piece. You talked there about, obviously, the fact that the only release that you had was when you were drinking or when you were doing coke. Which one do you, at the root of it, if you had to say it was one of them, can you pick it apart? Which one had a greater impact?
Not getting a handle on your physical.
Yeah.
What you put in your body, your palate, if you like, what you put in your body, how you treat your body, not getting a handle on that is an invitation to negative emotions.
Okay, so you're saying what you put in your body. I'd make it bigger than that. It's how you feel about yourself, isn't it?
Yes, but you've kind of got to make that irrelevant a little bit as well.
Go on.
You've got to make a decision. I can't expect to feel great.
Yeah.
It's like putting diesel in a petrol engine. It's not going to fucking operate. I want to touch on something that you said. I'm a big fan of. In fact, I'm actually this afternoon. I'm working with the second biggest book publisher in the world, which is exciting. And we're going to be talking about this today. And we're going to be talking about this. I don't believe that mental health attacks you. I don't think that's a thing. I think a lot of this, and again, we all know the role of genetics, and there is some genetic place. But I think for a lot of people, we are creating our own prison.
Can we talk about that? No, I'd like to.
I get a bit of shit from people for this. I get a lot of criticism online, which comes with the territory, right? That is the world's biggest glass, Kate Merton.
I know.
That is the world's biggest glass. Hey, I see your large glass, and I raise you a chug jug.
I'm like, I've got to get the fluids in. I've got to keep going with it.
The problem is you get your fluid in, but then you need to piss. You need to piss all the time.
I'm one of these people. Everything in my life I do with gusto, even drinking water. So, which can, and I imagine you're the same, right? Like sometimes it goes for me and sometimes it goes against me. But
it was a problem last night when it took 7 hours to get home. My wife was like, "We're not stopping." She was driving, so she went crazy because I had a piss in a bottle. Anyway, I had a piss in a bottle, and you know what? I couldn't see me willy, right? So I had to put the light on, and she kept turning the light off. I was like, I can't see whether my willy's going in the bottle or not, man. I can't see whether I'm going to hit the bottle. Anywho, so sorry. I changed the criticism thing. So the criticism thing is because
in the prison,
what we've got to consider is, and this was a huge breakthrough for me because it allowed me to take, this is a huge deal, personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Jocko Willink calls it extreme ownership. I had to take ownership of why I was so low.
Yeah.
I have this saying, which is outcomes don't happen by accident. I created that whole thing with the thoughts that I attached to, with the way I treated my body, with what I took in visually, with what I listened to verbally, with who I hung out with, which is essentially myself. I like any kind of connection. And just the way that I treated other people, the way I treat myself. I created that whole thing because you've got to consider this. There are, again, we know this, some people are genetically predisposed to depression. Anxiety, not so much, right? But you got to consider depression and anxiety aren't COVID-19. They're not contagious. They are created. You don't catch them.
Yeah.
They're created by us. And often, here's the great news. People don't like this because I'm like, they confuse taking responsibility and taking ownership with whose fault it is and blame. Those are two separate things. Fault and blame.
Yeah.
Fault and blame when you're like, oh, it's all my fault. That has me acting like a victim. That has me saying I am a victim when I say blame and fault. Personal responsibility, personal ownership is like, wow, if I have created this fucking shitstorm without even knowing it, imagine what I could do if I started fucking...
Right. And this is what I love about your work, because it gets people to step into their life, right? It gets people to step into their life and actually choose what they want it to be like. And I think that is, and I think that's one of the greatest problems, right? I think that's one of the greatest problems. We are like passengers in our own lives. And if I think back in particular,
sleeping awake,
it's just existing, right? Just literally existing. And I think back to pre-COVID, I think that's what so many of us are doing. And we suddenly have this smack around the face of actually, right, stop. Life is not just something that's happening to you.
Yeah.
And the intelligent person or the person with an appetite for change could and should be seeing this as an opportunity, right? Could and should be seeing this as, what do I want my life to look like now? But it's fucking hard. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but it requires a level of energy in order to focus it.
What it is, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be. Now you got to think about, almost without exception, your first thought's going to be a negative one. It's like this primal instinct, which is, am I going to be eaten by something? And what am I going to eat? Predator, prey. It's like one of our most primal instincts. But that's on you whether you stay there or not.
Yeah.
I have this thing that I teach a lot of guys that I work with, which is, and Tony Robbins says this, like the quality of your life is down to the quality of the questions that you ask yourself.
Yeah.
I teach my guys that questions are the steering wheel of the mind, right? I get to choose where I go. And I think one thing they said is, what do I want my life to look like? I could just go one back from there and I'd say, how do you want to feel? People get obsessed with how they don't want to feel, right?
So and then they're focused on what they don't want.
Yeah, exactly. And you get that. Where attention goes, energy flows and results show. You get what you're focused on. It's like people spend so much time. Yes, there are weeds in your garden. There can be weeds in your garden. It's normal. But it's up to you whether you water them or you water the fucking plants. You water the flowers. That's a decision on a daily basis. Which one am I going to water?
Tell me something. And I'm listening to you and I'm like, what's your fucking magic? What is your magic? And I'm telling you, I think your magic is the way you break this stuff down and the way that you communicate it.
And do you know why I'm able to do that? Because I've experienced it at a very deep level and because I practice what I preach and walk the talk.
And because you care.
Yeah, which is a problem sometimes. Sometimes I give more of a fuck about other people than they give about themselves. It's sometimes a challenge, that. That's one of the hardest things. I've got to realize that I don't even have a right to change people. I don't even have the right to do that. I can only lead a horse to water, they say. And the reason I'm able to do it is just because all I can be is the example. That's it.
So for now, would you say that that's the greatest thing that you have to manage? How much energy you put in, or choosing where you put your energy? Because if we've talked to you, and I want to talk a little bit more about the purpose side of things in a bit, if that's all right, because I'm convinced that lies at the heart of fucking great energy. But and I feel this with my work, although in a very different field. I think when you're doing work that is so purpose-led, the problem is the switching off.
Yeah. Well, I actually think that
managing it.
Yeah, I think that, purpose, first of all, we'll touch on the purpose thing there, but purpose is just a sense. It's not like I was born to do this. In 10 years' time, I might just fucking play golf all the time. Although golf is not my thing. It's just golf is darts with a walk, right? That's all it is. Golf's not my thing. But I might just be doing fuck all in 10 years' time. I'm okay with that. But right now I have a mission. I have a sense of purpose. So coming back to that, your question was about essentially we have limited fucks to give, right? And
I prefer to show the pie chart of my mind, but let's go with
limited. Let's see, and I have this theory that, and I think I first read about this fucks to give in Mark Manson's book, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. We have limited fucks to give. We're supposed to give a fuck. The problem that most people have is they're spending it on bullshit. They're spending it on bullshit. I fill my life with challenges that inspire me. Challenges. The challenge-free life doesn't exist, right?
Yes.
If it did, you'd still find a way to fuck it up, right?
You know what? Yesterday we had Sebastian Foucault on, who's the founder of free running, and he said that life for him got a lot easier when he knew that it was going to be full of obstacles. Once you've got that down, where am I going to
listen? Your brain is a problem-solving tool. If you don't give it problems to solve, it'll fucking find them. It'll find them. It's amazing.
Amen.
Problems. It's always.
Amen.
It's looking for problems and it's looking for progress. So I learned this from Dr. John DeMartini, which is if I don't fill my life with challenges that inspire me, I'm going to attract challenges that don't. Most people are attracting challenges that don't even inspire them. They're solving low-level problems and then wondering why they melt into a pool of piss when things get a little bit hard, when things get a little bit challenging. Like they contract as soon as there's a challenge. Can't wait to point the finger of blame. As soon as I point the finger and blame, I'm powerless. And this is what coaching is. Coaching for me is giving people back their power and opening up a space with world-class questions for them to take back their own power, which is essentially taking personal ownership.
And choosing where they put their thoughts, right? Helping them choose where they put their thoughts, because I think a lot of the time, exactly as you said, the amount, if I go back to the pie chart of my mind or the volume of fucks that I have to give, I've got to choose where I put that stuff. And I know that there's another area that I really wanted to talk to you about. One of the original questions that when I was kind of working on the kind of stuff that I wanted to pull out, and a couple of videos I saw of yours over the other days, the impact of others on your mental health, right? And how much time you give that stuff. Talk to me about that, because I get this. And
that's blame mentality. As soon as I point the finger at somebody else and say they drag me down, they don't support me, there's three fingers pointing back at me for a start. I lose all power. Nobody has the power to drag you down. Only you can do that. Nobody is holding your waist, the waist of your pants, and pulling them down. Nobody's doing that. You're allowing that to happen. Essentially, you're pulling your old pants down and showing the world your ass.
But what do you do about it, Paul? Because, and I really, you're and I'm talking about this. I had someone the other day who clearly it was an old friend, and I know that they've got some stuff going on. But they projected a lot of stuff on me, right? A lot of stuff on me. And I know that I can rationalize it. I can see the context. I can see that it's all about them. All these words fucking sting, right? I'm a human. And I know that you get this more than most, right?
Yes.
So talk to me. How do you manage it? And I know what you're saying about the power thing. I get that entirely. But how do you manage that? How do you manage
somebody's words? This coffee cup is somebody's words, right? Remember, words are just, when people say things, they are just, that's a noise that comes out of somebody's mouth. And I get that my imagination gets to decide what that means. The words are the words.
Oh, I love this.
The mouth and the tongue and the teeth makes shapes. Noise comes out. I get to decide the meaning. My imagination gets to decide the meaning. I could be like, yeah, she's just doing her thing. That's just making herself feel better. I get to choose whether I feel bad or not. So essentially, her words are in this cup. She's gave them to you.
Yeah. You
can say, yes, I'll take it. I'll drink your poison.
Yeah. Right?
Or, you know what? I'm going to take your gift. I'm just going to put it over there.
Oh, I love that point that you said about you can decide, you can interpret it however you want. Like, so for me, actually, in that situation, I immediately knew that those words, whilst they might have said that one thing, they're actually meaning something entirely different. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and here's the thing: both of them are just a fucking guess anyway.
Yeah.
Guess why guessing why she said it, what context it was in. You get to decide
what's going on there. Yeah, what's
your level of training, how much practice you've got.
I love that.
You could have just be grateful that she had the courage to tell you. She had the courage to tell me. She must think you can handle it. You should be grateful. I'll be grateful of that. Oh, you had the courage to tell me that. Thanks.
And can you just can we talk a little bit about that? I love the thing that you say around people being, if someone's reacting to you, they're triggered by you.
Yeah.
And your work.
Think about this, right? Here's what people do. People behave in a certain way. We reflect that behavior, and then we blame them for the way that we feel, right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, people attack me because I have said something that has challenged their beliefs.
Yeah.
People are allowed to. Here's what happens when I challenge someone's beliefs. They defend their beliefs. They're not attacking me. They're defending their own beliefs about how things are, how the world should look. Look, people have their own set of rules mentally. Most of the time, they're not even aware what they are, right?
Yeah. But that's the point. And I think actually a lot of your work is about getting people to step into that and to realize that.
Yeah, you got to consider. Yeah. You got to consider as well. Beliefs are a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Beliefs essentially control your behavior.
Of course they do.
Some people beliefs. Listen, you got to think about this. Suicide bombers and shit. Their beliefs are so powerful that they blow themselves up and other people.
And we're all our own version of that, right? We are all, we are all our own version of that. Maybe, obviously, not to such an extreme.
Yes,
we are all that.
Yeah. And I believe, and again, those beliefs and assumptions can change just by looking at them. Actually, that's utter horse shit. And that's what essentially I think I try and get people to do is I facilitate a change in beliefs, right? By either what I see on
the development of them, right? I suppose that so much shit is hardwired, right? But we can add to stuff all of the time.
Well, it's repetition. If repetition's the mother of all skill. A belief is just a thought that I've had so many times that I think it's true. And when I really look at it, it's utter horseshit. Like people think they need self-confidence to do things. I'm like, I was talking to a guy this morning, a guy he's in the restaurant trade. He's one of my clients. And he's crushed it in COVID, where most restaurants are fucking not doing anything. He's adapted, he's thrived, he's done it. Yeah. It turns out I can do it after all. And I said, you know the best part? You didn't have to believe you could do it. You didn't believe you could do it. That's what you did.
Do you think, question then, in your mind, what do you talk to your guys about most? The just starting or the commitment to sticking to it?
Commitment to sticking to it. Yeah. People know what to do, Kate.
Yeah.
Most people know what to do.
Yeah.
They just often people have no problem getting started with something like meditation, journaling, exercising, going for a walk, eating better, hydrating.
Yeah.
But what happens is they get started, they move away from the pain a little bit.
Yeah.
And then get why they started, or they don't have enough leverage, or they don't have enough people who they made promises to. They don't see their impact of their behavior on other people. Because one of the things that I'm like, listen, we are being watched by people, whether we realize it or not.
Oh my God.
Right?
So true.
We're being watched by our children, we're being watched by our staff, we're being watched by our clients, we're being watched by our colleagues, whether we like it or not. So I'm like, what are they saying? And that's the good thing about it. That's the good thing about you're supposed to worry about what people think, by the way. Everyone's like, oh, how do I worry about that? How do I stop worrying about what other people think? I'm like, you're fucking supposed to. It's human nature.
And use it as leverage, right?
Use it as leverage.
Could you just, for anyone that doesn't know your work, can you just talk a little bit about leverage? Because I think that that's an incredibly powerful tool. And I would love people to hear this from you, if that's okay.
Leverage is essentially... I hate saying this really because it's very overused in the personal development world, which is essentially a why. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Who is relying on me to step the fuck up? Because most of us can't do it for ourselves, right? But we can do it for other people.
Yeah.
Like if it was down to me on that cliff, if it was just about me, I would not be here.
Yeah.
My wife said to me, she said, think about the kids. And I said, I am thinking about the kids that'd be better off without me. Which, when you're that low, there's no logic. There's no logic. It's all just emotion, right? You can't see beyond it. You can't see beyond that. It's darkness. Can't see any light. There's no compelling future, if you like. My wife created a compelling future for me when I was suicidal. And she said to me, well, think about the kids as those kids whose dad gave up on them and killed himself. I wasn't willing to do that. That was leverage for me.
And a different perspective, right? Because as you just, you know, all of a sudden, you know, and we talk a lot about this, you know, and I hope, what I hate, obviously this whole event is about World Mental Health Day. Fucking World Mental Health Day should happen every single day as far as I'm concerned, right? This isn't just a one-off.
Yeah, I hope we're going to talk about the just talk thing, because I'll go off on that one.
I just literally, I suppose all I want to say is for people to realize that your perspective, and I know that you talk about it, you know, obviously from the work from Bar and Katie, but you know, everything is neutral and you can change that perspective. Sometimes we need help with that, right?
Just a question. Here's 2 questions. What actually happened? What's actually happening? How do I really feel? The second one, and what does that mean?
Go on, so say those 2 again.
Often the first part is fact. Here's how I feel. Or here's what happened.
Yeah.
Here's what actually happened. The second piece of that is, and that means what?
Yeah.
It's the and that means what that will create your next behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that essentially, that behavior will then create what we call life.
Yeah,
your life.
absolutely. Tell me something, and I know that routine is really important to you. You know, and we talk a lot about this within our work. How the whole kind of the time for your, I don't want to use, well, I don't really care about using it, the word self-care, or the time for being rather than just doing. How important do you think that is for people making a change?
I'm always asking myself, who am I being and who am I committed to becoming, right? Who am I committed to becoming?
Yeah.
Who am I showing up as? So for me, the first thing that I do in the morning has to be something for me. And the first thing that I do in the morning is put my attention on my intentions. The first thing I do in the morning is I steer my mind into where I want it to go. My mind will always find what I tell it to.
Yeah.
My brain will always find what I tell it to do. It's like a intention. I was teaching this yesterday on my program. Intention is like the bouncer of your mind, right? It's the bouncer, intention. It's like, do you remember when we used to be able to go to clubs and that?
Yeah.
And I did it before COVID, I mean before I was 40 years old. But there used to be, there's a doorman there, he has a red rope, and he's like, the name's not down, you're not getting in, right? I give my mind the guest list for the day every day.
Yeah.
Give my brain the guest list. If he's not on the guest list, he can fuck off.
Yeah.
Right? He's not getting in, he's a toe rag. He's a toe rag, he's from South Shields.
Yeah.
So
I don't believe it.
I know all the sand dancers watching it, but every morning inside of this, actually, my journal, I steer my mind. Sorry, I dropped my phone. I steer my mind to where I want it to go that day. Does it always stay there? No. Sometimes I have to bring it back on course. That's it. That's my first step every day.
Do you think that's the most crucial thing in you living more well every day?
Yes. Yes.
So
and getting a handle on my physical.
So just to be really clear, it's about like stepping into it, the clarity of your plan, of your managing your mind, setting your intention for the day. And I think what I'm hearing is then topping it up with the energy to keep going when you start flagging.
The first question I ask myself every day, right, is how do I want to feel?
Yeah.
Because again, we get up when people come at me, I get a lot of, you know this, I get thousands of messages, about 400 a week, right? One of the first questions I'll ask someone if they need me help is, how do you want to feel? Because they can't wait to tell me how they don't want to feel.
Yeah.
Tell me, and they get attached to that story. This is why a lot of therapy doesn't fucking work, because they're just going over the same thing over and over again and putting themselves back in that state. I'm like, well, how do I want to feel? And people will be like, well, I don't want to feel like this. I'm like, not like this, they'll say. I'm like, well, I can't create a strategy for how you don't want to feel. You can create a strategy for how you do want to feel. And then you create the leverage, and then suddenly you're fucking moving.
Can I ask you something? And so I'm thinking about this, you know, and I think that this is a really interesting area. You know, we talk a lot about the difference in work between kind of coaches who are obviously about getting you forward versus the more regressive work of psychotherapy, for example. Do you think that you can just focus on the forward? Like, I need to think about how I'm thinking of talking about this.
No, I don't, but what I can focus on is how I view that past event. That's it.
Right. And we've got a choice of that, right?
I can't change the fact.
No.
I can change what I make it mean. And remember this, listen to this carefully, right? I can't remember where I read this, and I've made it into my own thing. The past is nothing more than a present time memory, right? Of something that happened. And my imagination fills in most of the gaps.
How true.
And makes up all of the meaning.
Yeah, how true. Can you just say can you just play that out again? Because that is fucking huge.
The past is nothing but a present time memory where my imagination fills in most of the gaps in it and makes it creates all of the meaning around what happened.
Again, I come back to this place of, I think some of the, the power of your work is giving people back their power, and that is giving someone their power. And I don't think most people realize that. We feel like life is just happening to us, and we don't realize the power that we have every single day.
Something for us to consider is this: we never really get what we want.
Right? Say that again.
We never really get what we want. We very rarely get what we want. But we always get what we need in order to grow.
Yeah.
That's it. I just see things like an exam that sometimes I have to take an exam. It's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
2 things that happened to me last week, those crazy bits of shit. Most people would have contracted and whined and blamed and pointed the finger. But I'm like, listen, I could do that. It'll be easy to do that. I did do that for about 3 minutes. And then I noticed my kids were there. And I'm like, I'm going to have to step the fuck up. I'm going to have to expand. I'm going to have to take a breath. And I'm going to get this handled. So there was 2 options that I had, but in my mind, there was really only 1 option. I visited, by the way, I want to cover this. We go through this whole cycle of positive and negative, right? We're supposed to. Like, positive thinking is delusional, right? It's impossible to be positive all the time. But what you get to decide is where you live and where you visit. I get to decide how long I visit shit emotions for. I call them dog shit emotions, right? Dog shit, big dick, right? Those are my whole cycle. We have this quadrant that I talked about. All week I've been talking about this. We have big dick energy. We have dog shit energy. Big dick emotions, dog shit emotions. And I'm going to visit all of these things. But I live here in big dick and I visit dog shit every now and again. When I'm in dog shit, guess what? I get to choose how long I stay there for.
Because you've then got the tools to bring you back, right?
Yeah, visiting my mother-in-law. I'm dropping the kids off. I'm getting out the gate. Yeah, it's not really. That's the analogy that I stand in dog shit. I'm not going to listen. If I stand in dog shit, which I'm going to every now and again, particularly when I'm not paying attention, I'm not then going to go there like that. I'm not going to bottom of my shoe.
Can I tell you a story? So, really interestingly, I don't know if you've heard. Have you heard of a guy called Alex Lewis?
I haven't.
Okay, so Alex Lewis, he was on yesterday, and do look him up. I think that you'll really like him. He's fucking brilliant. I saw him speak about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he blew me away. He back in 2014, in 2014, he described himself as a functioning alcoholic, right? Drinking 90 pints a week and 2 bottles of wine a night on top of that. And he, one morning, he woke up and he had what he thought was man flu. 4 days later, he was in hospital he was a quadruple amputee. He had strep, right? And basically they removed all of his limbs. And he describes himself now, 6 years on, as lucky. And basically what happened over that period of time, and what I need to do is not oversimplify this, right? But he basically did what you're talking about. He stepped into his life. He stepped into taking control. He realized what his purpose was. He radically changed his life. He understood how his mind and his body were totally connected, and how he had to look after both of them. You know, he started mattering.
Listen, struggling is normal. Suffering is optional. All suffering is here. That's optional. Like, people don't understand this. They think they're somehow different. The thing that keeps us glued to our bullshit the most is this I'm a victim mentality. That was me. That was me.
And if you wanted to, we've got to end, and I just like this is as I knew it would. fucking blown my mind, and mainly also because you are one of the few people who I know swears more than I do. But you know, I just want to say, you know, if there was one thing, is there anything beyond that? Like for me, that is the point to end it, right? Like victim mentality is your choice. You know, and I think that everything that you've said throughout this, you know, it's not just starting, it's committing to this stuff, putting attention on your intentions, you know, and thinking about that as like the bouncer of your life, you know, having that plan, but then topping up that energy every single day. But we're in control, you know.
Remember,
when life
every
is just
so often,
happening.
every so often a fucking tow rag is going to sneak in there. Every so often a shit bag is going to sneak in.
Yeah. But it's what you do with it, right?
It's okay, turf him out.
Yeah.
And it's okay that he stays there for a little bit as well. It's normal.
Yeah.
But just know this. See, all this negative shit is just an alarm clock. It's just an alarm clock telling me that I need to do, think, be something different.
Yeah.
Sorry, I paused. So that negative shit, see it and view it. You're going to go there every now and again. You're going to visit there. But see it as an alarm clock. It's an alarm clock that I need to do, be, create something different.
It's a signal, isn't it, to do something different? You are the man. Thank you so much. I have loved today, and I cannot wait to work with you more. Have a wicked day.
Adios.
Rest.
Adios.